Hey there. Welcome to Toy Talk with Mike and Chad, episode 63. I'm Mike. This is
I'm
Casey.
I'm Chad.
Yeah,
I am not Casey.
yeah.
Almost jumped the queue here.
Sorry I threw you off there.
That's okay.
Stop licks. No licks. No. One, two, three. Yeah, Casey is joining us for at least a little while. I think she's already... All right, there she's gone. I'm going to let the dog go. She's gonna...
We just have to scrap this whole one.
Hey there. Welcome to Toy Talk with Mike and Chad, episode 63. I'm Mike.
I'm Chad.
And the toys that we're going to be talking about today are some of my new ReAction figures from Super 7. Now, for those loyal viewers, you'll know that Chad is back after having broke his leg and not being able to leave the apartment with ease, at least. We've been doing our episodes virtually for a while, but tonight, this is our first time getting together. We just shot an episode about some G.I. Joes, which I would have posted probably close to a week ago by now, and now we're posting an episode about ReAction figures. So, you haven't quite got back on the train for buying new toys yet, but now that you're back to work, you're getting there.
I bought one, and it's showing up tomorrow.
Okay, so yeah. Hopefully,
stay tuned.
Next time you see us, hopefully it'll be focused on some of Chad's new toys, because I have been kind of monopolizing the channel lately. But that's because I'm just continuing to buy way more shit than I need. And there's a lot of that in this episode. So, ReAction figures. I'm sure you guys all know what they are by now. They are the little 3 3/4 inch figures. They are based on the kind of Kenner Star Wars style of figures. So their arms move and their legs move and their heads turn, and that's it. They're very simple. The sculpts are kind of soft. That's what toys were like in the late 70s and early 80s. And now Super 7 has kind of taken on that look, and they keep putting out all these kind of retro style ReAction figures. I have a lot of them. You have a few.
Yeah, I bought some of the earlier G.I. Joe ones. A couple one-offs from other things too.
Yeah, and G.I. Joe, that's one of those lines where I kind of get caught up in it. Like, I collect G.I. Joe. I collected the 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joes, the 4 inch G.I. Joes. Now I collect the 6 inch G.I. Joes. When they started putting out these ReAction figures, I just kind of started buying them without even thinking about whether I needed them or not. I'm just like, oh, a new G.I. Joe line to collect. But it seems like that line is kind of fizzled out. I don't know if Super 7 is really going to continue it. And then I just kind of feel like, oh, I've got this half-done line, and should I have even bothered? Because it's kind of a weird mishmash of figures that they've released so far. Same as the ReAction figure Transformers. They put out a whole bunch of them, and now it's really kind of cooled down. And all they've been putting out lately is repaints. And I'm thinking like they're probably moving away from this line. And again, it kind of makes me think I probably shouldn't have even bothered getting in on this. It's not like I have a shortage of actual Transformers. They're just out of frame here, but I've got like hundreds of Transformers just over here. So yeah, I'll probably similarly regret all of these purchases someday when I'm like, why did I buy all these? But I did, and now we're going to talk about them.
Sounds good.
All right. So I'll start with the one little oddity, I guess, first off. So I think we are both big fans of the movie The Iron Giant.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys have not seen The Iron Giant,
go watch it. It still makes me cry, and I know the part's coming up, and it's just every time. I
know, and it's so good. It's an animated movie from like, what, 99? Something like that?
Yeah, 1999.
And it's so good. Anyway, we've talked about it on this channel before because I have one of the, he's like a 6 or 7 inch figure from Diamond Select. And then you got the same figure with like a metallic chrome finish. So I think we've talked about both of those on
Yep, and I actually do have the little Hogarth one now too.
Okay.
Yeah.
The ReAction figure?
No, the actual. Okay. Remember, I bought the battle one, right, and then you have the one with the Superman logo.
Yeah,
I have that one now too.
Okay. So yeah, those ones are all really nice, and it's one of those things where like once I had it in hand, and I'm like, this is basically the perfect Iron Giant figure. Yep. I won't ever need another Iron Giant figure. But I've said that about lots of characters, and then and then they release something else. So I collect ReAction figures for a bunch of other lines. And then they announced they were going to do some Iron Giant ReAction figures a while back. These are a couple of years old at this point. I think maybe 2 or 3 years. I don't know. But anyway, I bought one of them. I usually open up my ReAction figures. This guy I have kept carded for these couple of years. But this is Iron Giant in his full-on attack mode.
Yeah.
So that's when his head sinks down into his torso and all these like tentacles. He looks like something out of War of the Worlds.
Yep.
His hands turn into laser guns. It's super cool. And they haven't really done a toy of this complete transformation. Even the one you have, he hasn't gone that hardcore. You kind of have like a mid transformation.
He's mid transformation.
And one of the reasons I haven't opened this is because my ReAction figures are not currently on display. I put them all in little Ziploc bags and then they go in a bin. Hopefully they'll be stored eventually. But this guy, because he has all these little tentacles on the top of his head, I'd be scared they would snap off and he wouldn't survive storage.
And I don't see a problem keeping him in the package. I mean, it's your figure, but if I was to get that, I would probably keep that one because it's such a unique thing, and it's got special nostalgia. Like I love all-time favorite movie, like animated movie, right there. I would not do anything with that.
Well, let's say it does look nice. These figures look nice on the card. Like you've got a full view of the figure, and I used to have this pinned up on my wall. So there's a little tack hole, and they look really nice as display pieces. But about almost a year ago now, when I redid my toy room here, and I painted the walls like you see with these green and blacks. I took down all the carded figures because in the old layout, the whole wall was covered in carded figures. But when I decided not to do that, a lot of them I opened up. But this was one of the ones where I'm like, well, I don't really want to open him because he's just going to go in storage and he's going to get broken. So he's kind of in limbo right now. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with him. But yeah, he looks nice in the package. But on the back of the package, you'll see there's 3 different variations of the Iron Giant that you could buy. So there's the attack mode one. There's kind of the standard one that comes with the little boy Hogarth. And then there's the version of him with the Superman S on his chest. So I opted not to buy one of the standard ones. And that was because I essentially already had an Iron Giant ReAction figure in my collection. This figure is from like 1999.
Yep.
This little figure, which is exactly like a ReAction figure in that it only has those same 5 points of articulation, and he looks nice. It's a really cool little sculpt. He came packaged with the VHS. So I bought the VHS tape of him back in the day, and that guy was just in the cellophane. And so I loved that I had this little figure of the Iron Giant. And I've had this guy on display for years. For like the last 20 plus years, I've always got him out somewhere on a shelf somewhere. But anyway, as you can see, Chad, he has yellowed.
Yes, he has.
And it's kind of a bummer because it's not even consistent yellowing. And you see that with G.I. Joe's, like on Storm Shadow, who's all white. Oftentimes, like his torso will go yellow, but then his arms and legs won't or something because I guess they use different plastic for different parts or whatever. So yeah, he's gone yellow in all these random places. His torso's yellow, his feet are yellow.
And I'm partially colorblind, so to me that looks like more of a weird gray.
Well, that's the thing. He is a gray figure, like he's sculpted in gray plastic. So when he turns yellow, it's not like it instantly turns to like Bumblebee yellow. It's just like it kind of just looks ugly. It's this kind of yellowy gray, shitty color. So that kind of is a bummer that my kind of perfect little standard Iron Giant figure has gone all shitty looking. So I was, I think it was Free Comic Book Day this year, which is always the first weekend in May. So I went to one of our local comic book shops because I usually go to a comic book shop called Strange Adventures every week for my comics. You go
Giant Robot.
Both great shops. If you're in the Halifax area, check them out. But we do have a couple other shops. One of them is a place called Cape and Cowl, which is also a nice little shop. And they are actually the one that's closest to my house. So for Free Comic Book Day, I thought, well, I'm going to swing by Cape and Cowl. And they had some sales on and stuff. And so they had the ReAction figure of the Iron Giant. This is the standard one. So this is kind of a replacement to my old VHS guy. Now he's slightly shorter, but the sculpt is almost identical.
It's almost identical.
Like, so I love this guy. I didn't mind buying him again. I was kind of proud of myself that I didn't cave and immediately buy all 3 versions of those reaction figures, because I thought the one with the S, I've already got a big 7-inch version of him, so I didn't need that. And then this kind of standard look, I already have this one, so I didn't need to replace it. The only one I bought was the attack mode one, because that I didn't have any version of that. So I stood my ground for a while and was not impulsive. It was only when I saw that my figure had yellowed and he's not really a nice display piece anymore that I replaced him with this one. And yeah, I think Super 7 has done a really good job. I'm glad, considering this figure is several years old now, that if I decided to replace that yellow one and went online, I might not have been able to find it anywhere, because reaction figures oftentimes sell out and become quite expensive on the secondary market. I didn't bother to look for this guy because I found him on the pegs at Cape and Cowl. Saved me the trouble. So anyway, cool little figure. I'm happy with him. And he does come with a little teeny Hogarth that can kind of stand on his shoulder or something. All right, so next up we're going to talk about some Universal monsters. These are one of my bigger reaction figure lines, because some of my reaction figures are just little one-offs, like the Iron Giant, and I've got like Taxi Driver and things like that. But then I have some collections, like my G.I. Joes, my Transformers. The Universal monsters are a pretty big collection for me. Not that there's that many different Universal monsters, but they just keep repainting them in different colors, and I'm kind of a sucker, and I keep buying them in all the different color variations.
Yeah.
So, my 2 favorite is I love all of them. Like, I love Dracula, I love Frankenstein, but growing up, it was more the monster creature ones that appealed to me the most. So the Wolfman, and I didn't even plan this, but I'm wearing my Creature of the Black Lagoon t-shirt here today. Like, I love the Creature from the Black Lagoon. I love the Wolfman. So those guys in particular, every time they release a new color variation, I'm tempted to buy it.
I was always more of the Dracula and the Mummy.
Yeah.
I have this weird fascination with like vampires and stuff, and huge fan of the lore and the mythology around that. And then obviously my history degree, I always had a love of history and stuff like that. So I was huge into Egyptology when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Seeing that, just, yeah, those 2 were my guys.
So yeah, you were a Dracula guy.
Yeah, and a Mummy.
And a Mummy guy. I like them both too. And I have multiple variations of the Mummy and Dracula. I just don't buy all of the color variations.
Yeah.
Same as Frankenstein. And I wasn't buying all of the Wolfman and Creature either. I was buying more of them. But sometimes I feel kind of like I'm a bit of a sucker for the toy companies when I feel like they're not even trying very hard, and they're just like, let's change the color of this guy's shirt and make this
neon pink.
Yeah, now let's make this nerd buy another one and another one. And Super 7 is kind of bad that way for just releasing kind of lazy repaints. So with the Wolfman, I got a couple new Wolfman figures. So one of them, well, so they come in these are some nice little boxes they come in. They are they kind of look like something right out of the 80s with these retro videotape style packaging. So you can see I got Wolfman and the Creature. I've obviously taken them out of the boxes right now, but they call them, so these are Luminators.
Yeah.
And the gimmick is they glow in the light as opposed to glowing in the dark.
That's kind of cool.
But they don't really. That's
not cool.
Well, like they are neat. You'll see them in a second here, but Super 7 releases they release a lot of glow in the dark figures, and they make really nice glow in the dark figures. Like the glow effect is very, very bright. So this whole gimmick of glow in the light, they don't really glow. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I have previously reviewed, because I bought the Mummy one of these a while ago, and I bought the Mummy because he was bright pink, and I thought he was the most appealing. And I thought of these Luminators, because there was 4 of them, I'm only going to buy. Although I think they did 8. I'm like, I'm only going to buy 1. And I went with the Mummy because he was the nicest color. He looked like a Jolly Rancher, nice and pink. But I decided to buy my 2 kind of favorite guys. So I got Wolfman, and he is just a solid, translucent lemon yellow. So there's no paint detail on him whatsoever. You can see the inner workings because he's translucent.
Yeah.
And then I also bought this bright green lime creature from the Black Lagoon.
I like the lime green.
Yeah. And part of the reason, like, even though Wolfman's my favorite, the reason I went with the Mummy is because when you get Jolly Ranchers, the lemon's always one you don't want.
Yeah.
And so when I see that guy, he looks like a yellow lemon Jolly Rancher, and I just like, that's my least favorite, so I didn't buy him. But I decided to get them, so there you go.
My favorite is the red Jolly Rancher, which I'm sure is quite the popular one. But second place is the green apple.
I like green apple too. Which maybe, he's kind of a green apple.
Yeah, he is. It's like they made these after Jolly Ranchers.
Yeah. So anyway, I got another little creature from the Black Lagoon. So I think I'm up to about 10 different reaction figures of Creature from the Black Lagoon. He's the one I have the most of. So this one here is another guy, comes in a little box. This is a glow-in-the-dark figure. And the reason they got me on this one is I already have this exact sculpt of the Creature of the Black Lagoon in a solid green, just like a non-glowing figure. And it is not my favorite sculpt. He looks a little like stunned or something. Yeah, he's kind of goofy looking. And that's because like they have kind of their standard Creature of the Black Lagoon mold.
Yeah.
And then they have, sometimes they do them based on retro toys. So this guy's a recreation of an old toy, and that's why he looks that way, because he captures that look. So I was already happy to have the recreation of him. I didn't really need a glow-in-the-dark version of that figure. But Big Bad Toy Store, I think this is a relatively new functionality. I don't know if you've seen it. But when they have limited stock, it'll say like only 2 left, only 3 left.
I have seen that.
And I don't think they've always done that.
They haven't.
Yeah, so now I just happened to be looking at this guy on Big Bad Toy Store. And by the way, you can't get this guy. Like, I could go on eBay probably, but Super 7 is sold out of him.
Yeah.
He's not available in any stores because I think he was like an online only. Anyway, Big Bad Toy Store had a 1 left of this guy. And I was like, oh, man. So I was like, only 1 left. Am I going to be kicking myself sometime down the road for not buying it when there was only 1 left? And, so sure enough, I bought him. I put him in my cart, and then now it says sold out. So it wasn't like a trick, like where they kept it on there. Now only 1 more left. Like, once I bought the last one, it was gone. And the same thing happened with those Luminators. The reason I pulled the trigger on them now, even though they came out like a year or 2 ago, was because they had the like only 2 left or only 3 left. And I was like, well, it's kind of now or never. I kind of was waiting to think maybe I could get them on a discount at some point. I didn't get them at a discount. I had to pay full price. But yeah, so this guy here, he does have a nice glow effect. And one thing I like about him is that he doesn't necessarily even look like a glow-in-the-dark toy.
He doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah, because some glow-in-the-dark toys, they don't look very cool with the lights on because they're just this kind of milky bluish or yellowy color. This guy here looks like a toy you could just play with and you wouldn't even know he glows in the dark. Except then you turn the lights off and he has a really cool glow. So I don't mind adding this guy to my collection, but these guys aren't cheap.
No.
And
for that much plastic, that's expensive.
It seems like they should be cheap, but like for each one of these guys cost me about $40 Canadian when all said and done to buy them and ship them and everything is like $40. And do I get much bang for my buck for $40? Not really. But unlike Marvel Legends or G.I. Joes and other figures we collect, a lot of those figures do tend to show up at discount, and they're readily available at multiple sites. With a lot of Super 7 stuff, it's exclusive to certain stores, and when they sell out, they're gone, and they tend to go up in value a lot. So if I waited on this guy and I decided I wanted him later, I'd be paying a lot more. So anyway, so there's this guy. And then I've got some more. So besides the standard Universal Monsters, a while ago, again, we're going back a couple of years, they released these, I forget what they call them, these kind of like day glow color versions of them where they're all really bright colors. Again, I bought the Mummy, who's all bright orange, and I bought Frankenstein, who was pink and blue and green. And these were based on these old Halloween masks that were released back in like the 70s or something. And so I didn't buy my 2 favorite characters, Creature and Wolfman, partly because I thought out of all the ones they showed, I thought Frankenstein and Mummy were the most dynamic looking. But with these ones, I went ahead and I ordered these guys now. So you can see with the packaging that I've opened up, they've got these kind of bright colors on them. On the back, they show you a picture of the kind of the Halloween masks that they're kind of like based on. So I already had the other two. And so now I have the creature from the Black Lagoon, who is a nice bright yellow with red fins and kind of purple lips.
Which look normal.
Well, he looks okay. Like this could be, I could believe that a creature from a Black Lagoon might look like this. Wolfman, on the other hand, he's pretty bright and weird looking because he's basically got pink fur, a bright yellow shirt, and blue pants. Like they're very bright, like they're fun looking. But again, I would love it if these things were $5 or $10. But at $40 a pop, it kind of
it's excuse me. It's almost like they know suckers like us would buy these. You already have the mold. It's not costing you anything. You could sell these at a discount.
Yeah.
Not make them $40 or whatever.
I know. So, yeah. These are one of those things where they keep releasing these characters over and over and over again. And at what point am I going to say, I just don't need any more Wolfmans or creatures from the Black Lagoon? And I don't buy all of them. There are quite a few of both of these characters that I don't have, either because, I don't know, they just didn't appeal to me that much at the time. Just like all these ones I passed on until they were basically almost out of stock.
Yeah.
But it's just, it gets a little bit ridiculous, especially where I don't have these on display currently. I open these up, they go in little Ziploc bags, and they go in a bin. It's kind of a bummer. I'm hoping to maybe have a cabinet soon where I can have a shelf for each Universal monster. And knowing that I'm maybe planning that, it gives me a little bit more justification. Like, well, I got to fill it with something. Once I commit a shelf to the Wolfman, I need Wolfmans to fill it. Wolfmen. Yep. So there you go. So there's my Universal monsters. Now we'll go to G.I. Joe. So as I mentioned before, this line here, they did a lot of them. I've got a big bag of G.I. Joe reaction figures. I don't know how many I have, probably 50. But a lot of them are repaints, so it's not 50 unique characters.
Yeah, you have a lot of the Sailor. I think you have every iteration of the Sailor and the Cobra Trooper.
Not the Sailor. But yeah, that's another thing they did with the generic troopers. They would release them with, like, you can get them all with 3 different skin tones, and then you can get them all with a mustache or without, or with a beard or without. So the same figure is slightly tweaked, and then they sell it to you 9 different times for the full price. So yeah, I haven't bought, but I have bought quite a few of those troopers, and characters like Snake Eyes. They've released them in like Wolfman. He's in like 5 or 6 different colors. There's the glow in the dark one. There's the Tiger Force one. Whatever. But it really does seem like G.I. Joe is winding down because this most recent wave of G.I. Joe reaction figures was only 3 figures, and it was all just like repaints of figures we already had. And I'd be fine if it was like, say, 3 repaints and 3 new figures. But the fact that they didn't put any investment into sculpting new parts or anything, I really think they're kind of done because they've already announced they're going to start doing O-ring style G.I. Joes. And I think that's where their focus is shifting. So I had kind of mixed feelings about these. Like, part of me was like happy to get like, oh, they're still throwing us a bone. They're giving us at least something. But then there's the other part of me that feels like, well, am I just throwing my money away? I already feel like my collection is now going to be forever incomplete. Mm-hmm. So why am I buying these last little things? But anyway, it's a weird kind of collection. So first up here is Sabretooth, I think they're calling this guy. This character is known by 2 names. Sometimes he's called Wreckage, sometimes Sabretooth.
Oh, maybe that's where I heard the name Wreckage.
Yeah. But this guy here is a G.I. Joe. He's a member of the Tiger Force team. So he's got all these tiger stripes painted on him. And the original toy of him was just a repaint of Firefly, the Cobra Saboteur.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, so we all know Firefly. He's one of G.I. Joe's most popular characters. He has this 2-toned gray camouflage ski mask and jacket and everything. So here, that's just this Firefly figure I already have, repainted in his colors to look like Sabretooth. Which I'm fine with because I actually really like the character of Sabretooth. That's one of those repaints that works because Firefly was a great base figure, and so to be able to repaint him and turn him into a whole other character, I'd much rather that than them to just say, here's Firefly in a different color. Yeah. Then I feel like, well, now I have the same guy 2 or 3 times. If they give it a different character, it feels more justification to have him. Yeah, your stomach's still growling. Yeah, we determined in our last episode that we shot earlier that his stomach growling might be picked up on his microphone.
Yeah, it is around supper time, so
yeah.
So. Well, it's 7:30. It's past supper time, but
Yeah, so this guy's cool. I don't have the original Wreckage slash Sabretooth figure, but I do have one in the 4-inch scale that was released in one of the G.I. Joe convention box sets. So he was not an easy guy to get, but that was one of the ones from that particular box set that I was probably most excited because it was my first ever version of this figure. So he's kind of, yeah, he's a deep cut for G.I. Joe. So it's pretty cool to get him in the ReAction line. This is another deep cut, and it's kind of weird. So this guy, at first glance, you would
think
that's
it's Destro.
You would think that's Destro. But in the 80s, the G.I. Joe toy line is called Action Force. And for the most part, they would take G.I. Joe characters and release them in the UK as they were the same characters. It's just instead of saying G.I. Joe on the card, it would say Action Force. But otherwise, characters like Doc was still Doc, or Snake Eyes was still Snake Eyes, or whatever. But there was a few characters that they repainted in weird colors and gave new names. So, for example, they took Cobra Commander and painted him red and painted eyes on his mask and called him Red Laser. And Super 7 has previously given us a Red Laser ReAction figure by taking their Cobra Commander and painting him in those red colors. This is another example of that. In the UK, they released the original 1983 Destro with a skull and crossbones on his chest and called him Red Jackal. And that's what we've got here. So this is not Destro.
It's Red Jackal.
It's Red Jackal. So he looks a lot like my the Destro that I have previously from the ReAction figure line. He doesn't have the paint is a little bit different. Like he doesn't have the skull and crossbones on my other version, but the other version has a bare chest, so his chest is painted flesh tone, and he has a big red collar. This one here, he's got a red T-shirt instead of bare chested, and he's got a black collar. One thing that he's still wearing his amulet around, and I don't think he's necessarily supposed to have an amulet here because it's not painted, so they just kind of painted the skull and crossbones over it, which looks kind of lazy. But one thing that makes this figure kind of notable is he has the vac metal chrome on his head, which is what the original Destro figure from 83 or 84, whatever it was, he had a vac metal head. But we often don't get that anymore. I guess because I've heard the process is expensive and it's dangerous for factory workers. So they don't really do that very often anymore. So it's rare to get something vac metal. The previous two versions of Destro I have in the ReAction line, which was the standard one and the Python Patrol one, neither of them have the vac metal. So it is nice to get this guy. He's got the vac metal gauntlets and the vac metal head. So yeah, I bought this guy for those reasons. Vac metal, and because technically it's Red Jackal, and this is my first ever Red Jackal figure. So, yeah, not bad.
It's a Jackal,
I guess. And the last one. Now, this guy, there actually was some new tooling for this guy. This is the Snow Serpent. And I knew we were going to get this guy, or at least I strongly suspected, and it would have been kind of criminal had they not given us this. So I'm glad, even if they are winding this line down, that they said, well, we might as well invest the money to tool a new head for this figure. Because we got the same figure from the neck down in one of the previous lines, but it was from a specific episode where a guy called, I think, the Game Master, who was like one of these Villain of the Week one-off characters, he took a bunch of robots dressed up like snow serpents to infiltrate Cobra headquarters and kidnap Cobra Commander to take him to his zany funhouse. And you found out the snow serpents had clown faces on the robots. So they gave us the robot version. I think it was called the Game Master Drone. And it's like, okay, so I've got this Game Master Drone. That's kind of a fun, one-off, random, single episode figure. But the snow serpents are part of G.I. Joe's lore. And it's like, I'd rather a snow serpent. So since they had done the sculpting for the, from the neck down, it seemed like a no-brainer to put a new head on it and make people buy it again. So yeah, they did that. I'm glad they did, because this look is based on a cartoon, which was never captured in action figure form before. It's a lot plainer than the other snow serpents, like the classified one we got, which he's got all kinds of gear and all kinds of paint apps. In the cartoon, they were almost stark white from head to toe. And so, yeah, this is pretty stark white. Not much in the way of paint apps, but it's accurate to the cartoon. And it's the first time we've seen that. So
Yeah, I like the snow serpents.
yeah, pretty cool, pretty cool. All right. And lastly, I've got some Godzillas. Now, where do I start here? I guess, well, what I'll talk about, I get some figures literally just a couple hours before you showed up here today.
Okay, that I didn't know.
Yeah, so I've mentioned in a past episode that an acquaintance of mine, a guy I don't really know, but he used to work at the casino with my younger brother years ago. But apparently he follows me on my Instagram where I post all my toys. So this guy messaged me earlier this summer or this spring on Instagram and said, "Hey Mike, we don't really know each other, but I'm a friend of your brother's. Anyway, I know you collect these Godzilla reaction figures. I have some of the blind box figures. Would you be interested in buying some of them off me?" Because these Godzilla blind boxes, they're exclusive to Target stores, which we don't have in Canada. So I had previously asked my younger brother, who lives in the States now, can you look out for these blind boxes and buy them for me if you see them? So for the first wave of blind boxes, that's what happened. My brother found 2 blind boxes. He bought them. He sent them up to me. Great. But he doesn't go into Target a lot. Like I can't constantly task him with doing this stuff. And a second wave of Godzilla of Godzilla blind box figures came out soon afterwards. And what this Christian guy did is he went and ordered the full box of 12 boxes, even though there's only 5 unique figures. And he just hoped that he could recoup his money by buying the box that would guarantee he got all 5 figures, and then he could sell the other ones off to people. So that's what made him reach out to me, kind of cold call, because he had put them up on Facebook Marketplace and nobody was really biting. So I think he was getting a little bit more desperate, be like, "Hey, I know you're a toy collector. Will you buy some of these off me?" And I did. So I bought a couple of them off him a while ago. Anyway, another wave of blind box figures has come out. And he told me he was going to do the same thing. He was like, "I'm just going to buy the whole case. Will you buy some of them off me?" And I said, "Yeah, there's a couple of them that I'm interested in. I'm not going to necessarily buy all of them." So he just got the box in the other day and he messaged me. He's like, "Which ones do you want?" And I said, "I will take those 2." And he said, "Are you sure you wouldn't want this third one?" And he kind of convinced me to buy a third one off of him. And then he also sold me one of the blind box figures from a previous wave that I didn't buy off of him last time.
Okay.
Got all that?
Got all that?
All right. So we'll start with from the previous wave. So Jet Jaguar is like Godzilla's robot buddy. So I already have the Jet Jaguar standard reaction figure. And then I have since bought it again in the glow in the dark style. So when Christian came by the first time, he had the red firefighter version of Jet Jaguar. So this was one of the blind box ones. Now it's just basically Jet Jaguar cast in all red plastic. It's pretty basic.
Yeah.
Now there was also a medic version of Jet Jaguar, which I did not buy off him at the time. But he was kind of like, "Yeah, I still get that medic Jet Jaguar. If you want to take that off my hands?" So I said, "What the hell?" So I bought it. This one again is just Jet Jaguar again, cast all in white with a little red cross on his chest to show that he's a medic. And so there you go. Same figure, 4 times, different color schemes, whatever. Now on to the most recent wave of blind box figures. This seemed like a real miss to me from Super 7. Because when you're doing these blind boxes and you're kind of making just whatever figures, this seems like an excuse to kind of like go nuts. Like, let's make a rainbow Godzilla. Like some of the ones I got in the previous set was a green glitter Godzilla. You remember that one? So he's translucent green. He's full of like gold sparkles. Like it's not based on any movie or anything. It's just like a fun. So I thought this is what they can do with these blind boxes. If they keep making zany colors, like a purple striped, a cow pattern Godzilla, leopard print, like those are all fun, weird paint things that I would buy. This most recent set, they call it the Silver Screen Edition, and every figure is just black and white. So just a solid gray figure.
That's kind of cool.
Is it though? I was like, I would be okay if they maybe said, "Hey, we've got one gray figure," because that's what they did in previous waves. But like to do a whole wave of colorless figures, of figures we all have, like there's no unique characters. Like I have all those figures in other. It just seemed like that's really lazy. Like why don't you do one gray and white one and then one leopard print one and one neon green one, but instead they're just all plain black and white. And it just was not something that got me very excited. So, of the 5 that you see that are available on the side of the package there, one of them is available only one per box. I think it tells you on the side here. So that figures one per box.
Okay.
So when Christian bought these, he only got one of Godzilla. What's he called?
Silver screen?
Godzilla 62.
62.
So he only got one Godzilla 1962 and he kept that for himself. But then the other 4 characters, so Gigan, you get 2 in a box. So he kept one Gigan for himself, and that's one of the figures I wanted to take off his hands. And the other one was Godzilla 1974. So I said I would buy that off him. The 2 that I did not want, which are also 3 per case, is Mechagodzilla and Manila, which is Godzilla's son. And the reason I didn't want them is because the Mechagodzilla I already have is already gray. Like that's what color Mechagodzilla is.
So that's the missed opportunity?
Yeah, and same as Manila. They've only released Manila once, but Manila, you can see him there, he's gray.
Yeah.
So to release him again in gray, like why not make him red or yellow or something fun? It's like literally. So I asked Christian when he came over today. I'm like, so the Manila, how is he different? Like maybe I'm not seeing it, but is it really different? He's like, no, basically this guy just doesn't have a pink tongue. But otherwise, it's the same figure. Like, and that's the kind of thing. Like, why Super 7? Like, I guarantee almost nobody would want that Manila.
No.
So it's just and the Mechagodzilla 2, I was like, I don't want that. But then that was the one he convinced me to buy. He was like, I'm telling you, even though the Mechagodzilla you have is already gray, this is a nicer gray. It looks better. And I was like, fine, whatever. Because this is not easy for me to change my mind on. I can't go to Target and get it. Plus, they're blind boxes. So I could go, even if I could get to a Target, I could buy 6 of these and still not get the Mechagodzilla again. So I kind of thought, well, whatever. It's here right in front of me. I better pull the trigger. First up, Mechagodzilla. So this is the first Mechagodzilla figure that they released. So when this guy came out, I thought he was kind of an ugly gray. Like he's kind of flat. It's nothing special. It's fine. But what pissed me off is like a wave or two later when they said, hey, we're going to release Mechagodzilla in chrome silver paint. Now he's not vac metal like Destro, but it's a much nicer looking.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm like, well, if you could have done this in the first time, why did you give me this really dull, flat looking one already? So I wouldn't have bought both of those otherwise. Like if I had that silver one first, I would not have bought this one. But as it stands, I have the 2 of them. So I have the 2 Mechagodzillas. I also have the glow-in-the-dark Mechagodzilla 2, which is also kind of just a dull white color. Anyway, so this is the one from the blind box that he sold me today.
Oh, that is nicer.
So it is nicer. Like, he doesn't have any paint on him. Like, both my other Mechagodzillas have, like, red lettering and stuff on them. This guy, because he's supposed to be silver screen, which means black and white film, so there's no color highlights. But the 2-tone gray, it does look pretty sharp.
It works, yeah. I can't think of Mechagodzilla anymore without thinking about South Park.
Oh, really? Is it Mecha Streisand?
Yeah. Babura!
Yeah. So now I have 4 Mechagodzillas. They're all pretty similar.
Yeah, this was a good buy. I agree.
Yeah, he is nice. So once I saw him in hand, I was like, yeah, you're right. He is kind of cool. So what the hell? And these guys, actually, he could have charged me more, but he basically said $25 for each one of these figures, which is, considering I told you those other guys are about $40 a pop. Like, it's still expensive for what they are, especially considering it's just a toy I already have in multiple colors. But I'm a lot more comfortable at 25 than 40. So 25 is probably exactly what he paid for them, but he didn't factor in any shipping costs or any, I don't know if he had to pay customs charges. So yeah, I think he cut me the best deal that he could without like going broke. So I don't think he watches, but if he does, thank you, Christian. That's a good deal. Then the other one. So here's a Godzilla. So this was Godzilla. What did I say? 62? Godzilla 74.
74.
Yeah, so that's Godzilla 74 that came out the first go around.
Yeah.
And so he's already, like most Godzillas, he's gray. Like, that's what color Godzilla is. I know a lot of people think he's green or whatever, but Godzilla is actually gray. So this is the one I have. And then I later got that same figure in
I remember him.
glow in the dark. So now this one's kind of a white Those guys look pretty different.
Yep.
So I felt justified in buying both of them. So now I'm getting a black and white version from the blind box. And again, I was wondering how different is it going to be from the black and white one I already have. But this one here, you'll see he's got that kind of glittery, and I think he's got a little bit of translucence to him. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, on his hands you can notice it.
So it's not different enough. Like, I think he would be a lot more interesting if he was purple or something. Because I already have a gray Godzilla. Now he has some sparkles on him. This is where I think Super 7 is being kind of lazy and taking me
for a ride.
Yeah, being like, this chump will buy whatever. It's just not different enough. So that's kind of a bummer. And that's why I'm not too heartbroken for not getting the Godzilla 62 or that was also available, because it's just the same thing. It's another kind of glittery version of a toy I already have in black and white, so big deal. Now this last one, though, I think is pretty nice. So Gigan is one of my favorite Godzilla foes. He's kind of a goofy chicken-looking guy with swords for hands and a saw blade in his belly. He's so goofy. He's the kind of thing that you'd almost expect him to be in like an Ultraman or Power Ranger or something. But yeah, I've always liked him. And so I have that guy in the standard colors. And then I bought him again in his, what they call the toy colors. So this is based off of the vintage Gigan toy. And then there is a glow-in-the-dark one available as well, which I don't have yet. But here is the blind box silver screen version. And like Mechagodzilla, I think he looks pretty good.
He does, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it's flat colors, but there's like 2 or 3 tones of gray in there. And I think it works pretty good because I don't already have a black and white version of him. So yeah, that looks like if this guy, in your other hand, was in a black and white movie, like that's how it would translate, and I think it looks good.
Yeah, I could see that.
So that was probably the most exciting one of the whole lot. So that's all the reaction figures I have, but maybe I'll just tell you a little bit about the ones I got coming.
Sure.
So when it comes to these reaction Godzillas, I try and stick to collecting the Godzillas.
Yeah.
Like with the other characters, I don't need every version. Now, if it's a character I really like say King Ghidorah, I will probably buy all the different color variations. But I didn't buy the glow-in-the-dark Mothra or the glow-in-the-dark Rodan or the toy colors Rodan because like I don't really like Rodan or Mothra all that much. They're kind of goofy looking. So as long as I have one version of them, that was fine. With Gigan, I was kind of on the fence. I'm like, how many Gigans do I need? So once I had this one, and then I bought the toy color one, I passed on the glow-in-the-dark one because I'm like, I think I'm going to chill. But once I knew Christian was getting me the black and white one, I was like, well, now I need the glow-in-the-dark one. So I went on Big Bad Toy Store the other day, and they had the little warning, like not many left. So I bought the glow-in-the-dark Gigan, who, like these other glow-in-the-dark Godzillas and stuff, he's just going to be in this kind of whitish, milky kind of color scheme with some gold paint on him and stuff. So I've got him coming. And I also went and got Megalon is another one. He's kind of cockroachy.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah, I know.
So I have the standard Megalon over there, but they released a glow-in-the-dark version of him too, which I also passed on initially. And I kind of regretted, but Big Bad Toy Store had sold out. He was off of their website. Now, it was only when I went to get that Gigan, and I wasn't even 100% I was going to get the glow-in-the-dark Gigan. I just wanted kind of to look at it and like hum and haw. But I typed in Godzilla reaction figures of Big Bad, and the Gigan popped up, and so did the glow-in-the-dark Megalon. They got a couple more back in stock, and it said like 2 available. So that helped me justify the purchase. So I grabbed Megalon and Gigan. So those guys are coming. And I did something kind of impulsive, which I'm trying to do this less because I have told you I'm trying to stick to my collections.
Yeah.
Even that's a lot.
Like, it is, but
if I just buy G.I. Joes and Marvel Legends and Transformers and reaction figures and Masters of the Universe, that's plenty. But what I want to try and do is not buy things like Street Fighter figures and things like that. That's kind of a random one-off thing. So those are the things I'm going to try and not buy. But I wasn't feeling great last week, and I spent a lot of time just laying around watching movies. And a movie I watched last week for the first time ever was the movie Return of the Living Dead. Have you ever
Yes. Yeah.
that kind of punk rock
Yep.
one? Now I don't know why I had never seen it. Like I have seen lots of horror movies when I was a kid, and I've seen lots of zombie movies. I am a zombie fan.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I remember that box from my youth, and the cover box. What do you got there?
Resident Evil.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, Resident Evil. Again, I've seen the Resident Evils. But Return of the Living Dead has two punk rock skeletons on the cover. Like one of them's got like a mohawk, and one of them's got kind of like Liberty spikes. And like I'm a punk rocker. I like punk rock and I like zombies, but there's something about that I just thought was like it felt too corny or something. I was like, that's not going to be scary. It's because I had heard it was kind of a humorous take on zombies, and that didn't really appeal to me. So I don't know why I never watched it, but I know it has a cult following. Anyway, I watched it for the first time. I think it's from '88, maybe. I don't. Anyway,
80, definitely between 87 and 89.
yeah, and like so, if it came out in '88, I would have been 10 years old. I probably wouldn't have been able to watch it anyway at 10 years old. But mind you, I saw lots of horror movies that I shouldn't have watched when I was young. But anyway, I watched it for the first time, and I fucking loved it. I don't know why. Like, it's so zany. So you've seen it.
Yeah. Long time ago, but yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if I had seen it as a kid, I don't know if it would have resonated as much, maybe more, because sometimes I love stuff from my childhood that maybe I shouldn't love so much, but I just saw them at the time and I'm nostalgic for them. I really did not go into this expecting to like it at all. I was like, this is going to be dumb.
A corny one.
But I thought it was great. Like, it is scary, but it's funny and it's got good acting, and I just enjoyed the hell out of it. And after I watched it, I was like, I want to know more about this. And I went on Wikipedia and I found it, like, cause I thought, is this a sequel to like Night of the Living Dead? And there's a whole convoluted backstory about how the creators had different interests. So they split and did two sets of sequels. And then there's unofficial sequels and there's all this other stuff and unofficial remakes and whatever else. And I went to see what other ones I had access to. I watched Night of the Living Dead 3 like the next day. Mm-hmm. I don't have Night of the Living Dead 2 anywhere. It's not on Netflix or Crave or any of those other things. But I liked Night of the Living Dead 3 quite a lot too. And I didn't expect to. I'm like, surely this one's going to be dumb. But it was pretty good too. And it was pretty original. Totally different from the first one.
Yeah, usually when you get into like sequels more than two, it's like, ugh.
Yeah, and from what I read online, people say don't even bother with 4 and 5. Like, they're terrible. And they came many years later. But yeah, I liked 1 a lot, and I liked 3 a lot. And I watched YouTube videos about it and everything. I was just like, I love this movie.
It's good when you find little gems like that kind of unlock a whole other fandom.
Yeah, and then I remembered, I'm like, Super 7 did reaction figures of this movie. And I went to go look, and the first wave of figures they did was those 2 skeletons from the cover box. So green skeletons with mohawks and stuff. And they were sold out, which I was fine with because those characters don't actually appear in the movie. You never see a skeleton with a mohawk in the movie. But what does happen in the movie is there is a group of punk rockers who get attacked by zombies in a graveyard. And so one of the girls, which was super cute, by the way, and she's got this kind of like red, it's not a spiky haircut. It's not really a flattering haircut. It's this kind of poofy red hair. But watching it, I was thinking, like, this looks like something that they could have based Zorana on.
I was just thinking that.
Like, she had like a Zorana vibe for sure. But anyway, so that character was she was cute. And the first main zombie they encounter is something they call Tarman, which is a guy he's covered in goop and he's chasing them and stuff. Anyway, so wave 2 of the reaction figures was this girl whose name is Trash in her human form. She's supposed to be that green skeleton with the Liberty spikes and the Tarman. And so I don't know when these figures were first released, a year ago, 2 years ago. But anyway, I bought both of them as well. Now, it might be a little bit of newness bias. Like, maybe if I waited a week or two, I'd be like, I don't need those figures. But I saw the movie like just a few days ago, fell in love with it, watched all this other content about it, and I was like, I need these figures. So I ordered them. So they are coming soon.
What platform was that on?
I think it might have been Prime.
I might have to go check that out because it's been like 25 years at least since I've seen that movie.
And then I think the other one, Night of the Living Dead 3, I had to watch on Tubi.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, if you haven't seen it in a while, I'd recommend it. It's like, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I was quite surprised. And so now, I put them in that category of these don't fall within my collection because I don't have any other Return of the Living Dead stuff. And if you'd asked me a week and a half ago, I would have said, why would I even want that? But I did, and it was kind of an impulse buy. I maybe wouldn't have bought them right away, but because I was buying Gigan and Megalon anyway, I was like, well, I got to make it worth my while and make a little bundle here. So that's what I did. So I have 4 new ReAction figures coming to me from Big Bad Toy Store in the coming weeks. And yeah.
I will say that I am a fan of that little countdown thing they added to their website. Because how many times have we gone back and forth about, oh, it'll be there for a while, or I don't know if I should pull the trigger right now and buy it. That definitely helps determine whether or not I'm going to buy something. Because if if I see it down to like 2 or 3, I'm like,
And the thing, I don't know if they are, playing us a little bit because maybe Big Bad,
they actually have like 500 in the back.
Well, yeah, but I don't blame them necessarily because a lot of people, you and I have done it as well. I feel bad about it, but sometimes we pre-order things.
Yeah.
Big Bad does not charge you until the item is in stock.
Yeah.
So you might pre-order it, and then 3 months later you're like, I don't really need that, and you cancel the pre-order. Presumably, Big Bad went ahead and ordered that because of your order, and now they're sitting on extra copies of it and stuff. So they might have a lot of stuff. And if they have a bunch of things, especially something that's been out for a year or two and it's just sitting there, if they change that to say only 3 left in stock, maybe people will buy those 3 up really quick, and then they say, "Hey, let's wait a couple months, and then we'll put another,
batch.
We'll say 5 left, and they'll do that." And so, if that's what they were doing, that'd be a little manipulative and whatever. I have no evidence that that's what they're doing at all, but it definitely encouraged me to buy a few of these things when I realized, like, oh, there's limited numbers, and there are a few other things that I have been sitting on. Like, I'll buy it later, we'll see. But if I saw that they had like only 2, 3 left in stock, I would jump on them pretty quickly. So it's a cool feature. So we talk about Big Bad Toy Store on here a lot. That's where we do a lot of our online shopping. They're not a sponsor,
no,
but
check them out.
Check them out. They are a good online store for sure. It for us Canadians here, the shipping and the customs is getting pretty brutal.
Yeah.
So I am buying from them a lot less than I used to. Now, when it's something like a Marvel Legends or something that can be found at retail, I resist pre-ordering it on Big Bad like I used to. Now I always try and find it locally at Walmart or GameStop or something. But for some of these things like ReAction figures that retail stores don't carry around
Well, you
here,
saved me about $20 the other day by saying, well, this is actually on the GameStop website for $39.99, I think.
Yeah, you had pre-ordered this Doomsday figure.
Yeah.
And he's going to be big.
Yeah, he's going to be huge.
He's going to come in a box like this big.
Yeah.
And so that's
shipping alone on that.
Shipping would be really expensive. Plus, the bigger the box is, the more likely customs is to
open it up
to ding us for customs charges. So you had told me that you got that email from Big Bad saying
processing.
You pre-ordered this a while ago. It's processing soon, so just make sure your credit card's ready. And you sent it to me like, oh shit, and I was like, that's like $50 American. They have it for $50 Canadian on GameStop's website, and that's a big difference right there, because the Canadian dollar is like 1.4 times the American dollar. So it would have been cheaper to order here anyway, but then there's also no shipping, no customs. So just anything like that, McFarlane stuff, Marvel stuff, G.I. Joe stuff, try to avoid Big Bad if you can get it locally. But for things that are hard to find, like a lot of these Super 7 stuff, there's no stores around here that really carry it. Big Bad's always my first stop for sure. All right. Well, is there anything else?
I don't think so. Nothing from me.
Okay. Well, we've still got lots of toys to talk about. You've got some new DC guys coming. I've got a whole new wave of Marvel Legends to talk about. I got some really nice figures from the Four Horsemen last week that I got to do a video on. So some cool stuff. So we'll be back soon. So stay tuned. And until next time. Ciao.
Keep collecting. Also, like, subscribe, and comment.
Like, subscribe, comment.